What's up, Morpheus?
Wrong intro, guys. Sorry. Let's get the right one. Hey, everybody. Sorry for the wrong intro. John's doing his push-ups. Matt already did his push-ups. Matt's part of our 42-day hard that John's putting on. And Matt is also an expert on scrogging. He's got his own channel, Matt's Greenspace, where he teaches people how to scrog. We're going to have a lot of pictures today, guys. But Matt, just tell us a little bit about yourself. And welcome back, Tony. Glad you're feeling better, brah. Matt, explain who you are, man.
I'm not being 21.
I'm a grower on YouTube trying to teach people how to maximize their garden using scrogging techniques. I've been growing. I grow in tents right now, and I also do outdoor scrogs. I just finished one of those, and just show you how to maximize it within plant counts too. Because I try to grow big plants in big places. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's good because, not everybody has a volume of space like John had, like Tony has outside, like I have in my trailer. So a lot of people do have to grow in tents, in a smaller area, right? So I'm glad that you're doing that and teaching this wonderful technique that adds to the overall harvest that you get at the end. Do you have any idea on percentages of what you're getting compared to not scrogging?
Enough for me not to want to do non-scrogging. I started doing it. My second grow. I did my first grow, didn't came out the way I wanted to, and then started on my second grow with the net, and then just got better and better and better at it. I moved away from those black elastics. Aren't the best. You want to use those nylon. You want to use the nice white nylon because of the stretch factor. It can keep your squares proper without having the extension. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you just pick things up over time. You learn how to do it. You make it your own for your space.
So what would you recommend for a new grower or even an experienced grower that has never scrogged before? What would be your first recommendation?
Know that that's what you're going to want. Do it. Yeah, that's right. Know that you're going to do it too. Be prepared. I always found that trying to go right into the scrog from not planning it doesn't really give you the best result. I prepare. I know right away. I'm topping node 5. I'm bringing my plants out. I'm stretching them out so they're almost like a straight tabletop, like a circle, only this high off the ground before I get into it, so I can go into my main scrogging training net, and then after that they go into a supporting net.
Okay, Tony, have you ever done much for scrogging, bro?
Yeah, oh man, I've grown so many ways with the scrog. I like using a PVC frame for the netting up on top, so I can make my screens any size I want by just putting screws in at the amount of inches apart, and then just using a nylon string that I can throw away every time. I find those work really great once you start having a system that you use all the time and not just something you started with. Once you've been like in a 4x4 or a 5x5, set your screen up permanent so that it's just a second thought to get that thing going. So the easier you start, the easier the finish is going to be. So once you get a system in and stop messing with it, you're going to start seeing it. Your gains jump in the amount of weight that you get, how easy it is, when to know to flip a plant or when to top it. All those things become second nature once you've started the system. And once you get one going, if you find cultivars that work in there, utilize those. You're going to find plants that won't grow at the same pace as others, and you're not going to be able to feel the screen as well. So try to get plants that have the same metabolism where they are going to grow up as vertically and as horizontally as the next plant. So you can fill that same area with different cultivars. That's another tip you should be looking at when you're going to scrog.
Matt, I'm sure that you would agree with that 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. And you want to make sure they do absolutely grow the same, because I have done that had two different cultivars that don't grow the same, you're not going to get nearly the results that you want. I actually stick to a more of a monocrop right now. I don't do different. I use a different cultivar in a different tent, just because the monocrop allows you to have that control without having to worry about it.
Sorry, guys. I don't know. Oh, my other cat just came down the stairs. My dog's got to tell me that there's a cat here. So
you'll get way better top colas off of a screen of green. Also, it turns everything that hits that net into a cola. That's how I did my one hitter quitter grow that I did last year. 2 plants in a 5x3 in sip containers using the scrog setup with 2 different mats or 2 different nets. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, I know the scrog that I did originally, I actually used binder twine or baling wire, just strung it up, made my own squares because that was the material I had on hand.
Just try to stay away from jute or
don't use
they will stay in your flower. Plus, they're a place for pathogens to breed because it'll hold moisture like a wick. So the next thing you know, you'll start getting molds and stuff growing on the places it's contacting your stems because of it rubbing and leaving moisture on those areas. So that's why I always use a nylon if I'm making my own, or baling wire like you have. That's what I have out in my dry room is baling wire. I just tie it off on nails, stretch it across, and bring it taut.
So, John, you got your push-up posted?
Yeah, that's why I thought I filmed it, but I didn't, so it's all good. Cat's pushing on. Hetty's doing this over here. She just breaking stuff. Kidding, totally. No, you know what? I did a lot of done so much different stress growing. I've done so much tiebacks. I think we showed one when I showed you there a couple years ago. We had a plant that almost looked like the size of a car. It was only about 2.5 feet tall. So we would tie those down. We created almost buns that trees on it. And the same thing. We don't use wire. Don't use it's kind of like it's a bendable. It almost feels like Play-Doh, but it's not. There's a little metal in the middle of it. So that's what we use. I can't think of the name of it right now. I could picture it sitting right there. I could totally just go and get it. Now you got to ease, take the laptop out and everything, right? So it's really important, like you're talking about. One thing I really found about whenever I did any kind of low scrogging, because we did that in the past, instead of using different things so we used to use a lot of products. We used to use products that would stunt our growth. So we could actually, because plants would stretch, we used to grow in small, confined areas. Crazy. So I always peeled. Everybody has a different way of being able to scrog and what they do things to slow down the growth, less stressing, tying back. We've done just kind of softening the stem, just kind of rubbing it really to have about halfway to get about this tall and then breaking them right over and having them this way and starting that scrog system and then putting the meshing over top so it grows through so you just get top colas like I've seen with Matt's stuff. I haven't really filmed a lot of it, right? There are different parts of my videos back in the days where you see I've done things like this, where we've done all kinds of different ways of exactly what you're doing, but straight out like a 4x4 scrogging system. I've seen people in 4x8 tents pull 10 pounds by scrogging from 2 or 4 plants. They put them in 15-gallon living soil mesh pots. They put 2 plants in there, and they put 2 of those in one tent. And I swear, straight up, pulling like 8, 9, 10 pounds. Pure strong and like just top colas all the way across. Beautiful looking formation. A lot of work and a lot of good rewards. Wow.
Yeah.
Right. And that's one thing I want to acknowledge, Matt. I was looking at your channel and really what you've learned. And not only just talk about that, but we try to have Bruce Binsby. I keep saying his name wrong on here.
Bruce
Bugsby. Thank you very much. John doesn't talk very well. He has to have notes in front of him to see it. But you guys all know what I'm talking about, which is great. And I missed the episode. I was just dying to talk to him because I was really on that light path. And then this guy here in the far left-hand corner, who was awesome in my left-hand corner, Matt, took the course and got all the degree. And we talked about that. And really understanding there's other ways of moving. You got to take a look at light too, guys. Light plays a key role in these certain things. You don't want to be using like an HPS bulb when you're vegging and trying to get a scrog and create more inner spacing so you can have that different type of canopy. Where you're getting the stretched growth when you're using like a far red in the beginning, you're not gonna get it's just gonna grow like this. Like sativas, we can stump them down by using light. We can talk about light and how light can play a key factor as you're nodding your head, Matt. You know this because I get to go down the light path, right? I know what I know, and you know, and as I'm talking, you're like, yeah. Let's really talk about how light plays a key factor in this, and how switching out different light recipes in times of flower actually help with strogging and with growth. There's ways of looking at this, guys. There's so many ways of looking at this and how we can actually present this, not just us, but for everybody else. What Matt's doing, awesome. Now, if we can add a light recipe behind that with more blue in the beginning, yeah, as he smiles, he knows exactly we're talking about 30% blue to red ratios here in the beginning to tighten that end node spacing to get more of a better canopy. And then changing that light, right? And they're dealing this with lights now, too, is I know we talk with Alias, a lot of moving parts.
I have HLGB specs that are enhanced with the
there you go
470s.
And then that's also Grandmaster Level, who actually worked with HLG. He's got a new light, and it controls different spectrums.
Yep.
Now you can start playing with light recipes. I talk about that in my book. LED LEDs are going. He's like, yep, it's pretty fair.
The 400 to 500 nanometers in veg, and you'll get those plants to shorten up. And
there you go.
See,
easy.
Oh. Right, it's so easy with LEDs because we could literally have a bar made that's just that. We can work out the math to find out how much of the other spectrum's in there, and then just like they said, add 30%
this is what we created. This is what we're talking about. Exactly what you say to that. And I just want to acknowledge you exactly what you're saying. That 400 to 500 nanometer light is going to help with that strogging. Be able to tighten that up, and that's what these new lights are able to produce. So we talk about it's in the book, keep saying it, and people are doing it. Yes, guys, just keep making these lights. There's like 750 companies on the market. Make the light. Just do it. Send it to me. I'll test it. I can tell you all the light recipes. Why? Because I've already found these light recipes. I know them. I just need the light to show them. That's why Matt's got the technology, because he's got the certificates. We talk about strogging. Now we start adding light to that. Wait till we got what we got going on here on this channel, guys. We're going to show you some pretty amazing things. 2024 is a whole new way of looking at growing, and look at that beautiful sun coming up. You know what? Look where it is right now in the fall. If it was in the morning right now, it'd be right over there.
Yeah.
So understand light and its light cycle now, and why things outside are just dying and what's happening with light, and understanding how light plays a key role in strogging. Because now we're looking at that, like Mr. Toad said, applying these specific parameters around these growing patterns. We're going to start getting different. We can create a season now. We used to be based by seasons. That's how we grew. That's how we learned. We didn't learn. We grew because of the season. We got 4 seasons. 4 seasons in life, 4 seasons in growth, and where you are in your life cycle and where we are in our growth cycle. I'm not going to get into this. We do this on the 42 journey. It'll be 42 live in January, by the way. We're going 42 days live with Johnny B. 42 days in a row. We'll talk more about that. So I'm going to get back into the light and the strong and really redefine now even the genetics that I was just talking about right now, and I sent Matt some of the genetics. Ken's got them. The OG, the 91 Chem Dog cross with the Medi is perfect for strogging.
Okay.
It is ideal, and how that plant where the Medi isn't. It's a single cola or indica plant. And then the Death Medi, what we cross into that one's will do very well. You can see it's going to get that tight node. So you can take a look at what plants and what Mr. Toll was saying. What genetics going to work best for strogging? That's another main one, because if you don't have, you could have a genetic that you want to scrog, and it's going to give you shit because it's not really made for it. It's just going to come.
It's not going to work. The branches are going to break off. The veg cycle's too long. It's not conductive for that style of growing, where you could have just went and done a sea of green in the same space with multiple plants to get more from the shorter plant that has apical growth instead of branching. You could also alter that with hormones, like increasing auxins to a plant from topping will send out apical growth. But again, if you have a plant that doesn't grow that way naturally and is affected by it on the bad side, where you could possibly cause intersex issues from the hormone shift that's not supposed to actually be happening. It just comes down to knowledge of what you're doing and what you're growing. Eventually, it becomes easy. What was hard at one time does become easy, especially when you have these platforms. You can listen to other folks that have done it, have not succeeded but failed. Like, you can find out what you're about to do is going to fail 100% because you've chose the wrong cultivars, or you're putting 4 different ones in there based on size, and the big one's going to outgrow everything, and you're going to end up with a bunch of nothing from the rest of them and be angry
Oh,
that
yeah.
you lost so much
Ain't no
time. You know, there's a lot of stuff that can help you feel better about your garden, and that becomes medicine from the start. Right? You don't have to smoke it to be feeling better from what you're doing. If
Just
you feel
being
like
in the
your
room.
seed is growing, you're gonna feel successful inside, and you can't fight that feeling. Eventually, it rubs off on you, and your mindset changes. Right?
See exactly what Mr. Toad's talking about. These two here are sea of greens. That's the true medi.
Yeah.
That one in the back is definitely going to take over everything. And you see this one here is the tight one in the middle. That's the you can see exactly what Mr. Toad was talking about to a T. I love it because now you can actually see it while he was explaining and talking about it. And bang on there. That's exactly. I love hearing that. The knowledge is just awesome.
Yeah.
And
Love
like
it.
you said, the Medi Kush, a Bubba Kush, a Pure Kush, a True Afghani. If you go
Just
and top
all
load and try to do them in a scrog, you're
Forget
going to
it.
be growing for days.
Yeah, just
And
forget
you're
it. It's
going
just
to run
not
out
gonna
of fucking soil space because they're going to need way more root space to grow that long, even though they're not that tall. Right? People will judge how big a plant is based on how much, like the soil should produce this much weed, but depending on cultivar, like a haze and a Bubba in the same room, you might as well just throw the
forget
Bubba
it.
away. It's not going to
Yeah,
do
it's,
nothing compared
you
to
know,
your haze. They
and
just aren't compatible in the same room.
that's one thing we grew. Like I was gonna say, as to when I was growing with the Medi, it was in 2006. 2000, like this is everything was just beds
Mm-hmm.
in and out. You didn't want what we were growing with some of these big strains. Fuck that. That takes too long. Sea
Yeah.
greens. That's all you wanted. 7 and 9 day veg flip in and out. 4x4 tables, 2 lights. Right.
Cover.
Speaking of veg time,
And like, and that's what you see right now. I can show you seeds of greens and some of the other. If you go on my Instagram, you'll see some seeds of greens that we're working on. We're in 2-gallon pots. We're running these cushions. They were trimming them up. 3 colas. That's it. Straight as far as you can see. That's it. And
But
that's
for
what.
the home grower who has a 4-plant count,
Yeah, you don't want that.
they're gonna go. You're gonna get in shit for doing that if you get caught doing that, and that's why with the scroggin it becomes beneficial.
And then
Yeah.
once again, like Mr. Toe was saying, understanding what strains you need to strog is the next big step. So actually,
Yeah.
this is
And
great.
then you can get variety doing that. Once you've learned the system, now you take up and start learning different cloning techniques. Like I used to I would graft plants that had similar the growth patterns, like they would grow at the same pace. Now you can grow one plant in a garden that's got multiple different flavors because it's a cloned mother that's carrying multiple mothers on it. I used to put 6 different mothers on one plant so you could have a 7 plant count on one plant and end up with different flavors. It's one way to get around it. Takes a lot of work,
Cool.
though.
That's really cool.
It's a lot of work. It's just how much fun you can
A
have.
lot
Though.
of graft them into fitting into a sea of green or a screen of green is hard because the graft has to happen so small so that you can fit them underneath your netting systems. It's kind of hard.
And you're the guy that would do it, so we're definitely have.
That would be so interesting having like different sets of the
And,
of
you know,
your.
this is your summer project. We're putting that down as a goal. Let's write that down. We don't get the book out.
So Matt, how long do you normally veg, or do you have a specific size of scrog that you want before you want to flip the flower?
For my needs, I normally grow a 4x8's worth of weed. So for that 4x8, I'll veg 2 plants at the same time that I'm flowering those 2 plants, so I can stay within that 4 plant count. So
Yeah.
I will flower and I will veg for the same amount of time. So when I'm flipping, I'm germinating. So that whole time that it's in flower, it's vegging. So it's going to be ready for vet. It will be ready for flower by the time that I'm harvested and dried. So I'm constantly cycling it perpetually and not being out and staying within 4. And then when you worry about that long veg time you need for a big scrog like that, it's already happening. You're already flowering for that period of time. You're not waiting on it.
Yeah, perpetual. His name is why can't I remember his name? It's Wolf Seagal.
Yeah, Wolf.
Wolf is the guy that invented the name for sea of green.
No, that is
The first person to have pinned it. Him and one other guy.
Yeah, and he was on the Future Cannabis Project.
He's a
with
smart
Lady-
dude. When it comes to light, if you want to talk to someone about lighting, talk to Wolf
Yeah.
Seagal. That dude is smart. He can put it into terms that'll make it easier to understand instead of just numbers and spectrums. He
Yeah.
makes you understand how light's seen by a plant. Or it comes down to a radio. He'll put it into terms of like radio signals and sound that we understand, since we don't absorb light and feel it the same way a plant does. It's like going to a party and it's your favorite band. Like, you're gonna have the time of your life, you'll never forget it. But if you ended up at the wrong concert, you might cut a rug or two, but it wasn't your favorite thing to do. Music's not just music when it comes down to telling tell a plant what to do and when to do it. That's what the light's controlling. It's controlling its phytohormones in the plant. So with spectrum and intensity, we can tell that plant what to do and how to do it. That's why we've been so successful with cannabis over the years with a short day plant.
Well, and Wolf was talking about the lens, and he was talking in the where they actually test the lights that are being produced to get the true spectrum. It's the lens that they're using as a crystal lens, which actually gives you the full spectrum. But they're so expensive, we're not going to see them, in grow tents having those crystal lenses.
No, it's going to take time and money. Most the home grower side, they're not going to want to pay for that technology. It just costs too much.
Yeah.
It's like plasma lights. You get a plasma light right now that'll put out the spectrum of the sun and outdo any other artificial light source that we have. They cost a lot of money. They don't throw well. They have to be set up very specifically.
We had
They
the
work
plasma tech with it. I mean, it was Gavita's on hand with the Gavita plasma off the control and everything else like that. I ran it against an LED at 2315 metal highlights, and the metal highlights and the LED did better than the Gavitas with the plasma.
Oh, I don't doubt it. That's why I said you have to tailor them to a system. The plasma works great for a mother room. If we can reduce the amount of light in the mother room, putting plasmas in there and getting long, stretched out vegetative growth that's easy to clone. It gives you the best kind of clones that you could use for making production clones. I feel every clone facility I was in that used the plasma, they always had the healthiest and easiest to reproduce clones and mothers in the place.
Gas truffle. So I get to do
We're used in the flower room very often.
a pie of power
As supplemental.
or runts.
You're trying to pick which one you should smoke, John. Well, while you're doing that, maybe Matt, why don't you bring up some of those images that you've got in your file there? I'd love the people to see the scrogging.
You don't want to
you're
see
doing.
Okay.
Let's see what Matt's doing here. You know what?
So I'll show you guys.
Let's do it, by the way. You sure when you show it? We don't hear it.
Add the screen.
So here's an example of when I'm starting out. So this is, like you were saying, this is in a veg tent under a blue spectrum light to keep it nice and low and to allow the plants to. I've only taught these once, by the way, and they've been tied down. So right from this stage is I would move them into my 4x8 where I would start my scrogging. And as we were talking about super cropping, you want to make sure that you keep everything at the right level. So you want to super crop as necessary if your branches are tall. Stretch it out to the sides as much as you can, as well as this one. Because these plants got tall, nice and tall, so I just super crop them down, right? Within a week's time, we're dry right now, but within a week's time, you have recovery. And you're going to still want to, once you get recovery, you're going to want to start to tuck out even further to each one of these sides, all the way through.
Now, are you weaving, Matt, or are you just pulling back down and putting out to the side? Or are you actually
just
weaving
pulling them
through?
down until they reach the outer limits, and then they'll have to go through, and then you put a second net above that.
Yeah, so I pull them down and through, and then back up, and then I'll pull the other branches that come up from that branch. I'll pull them through each one as I go.
Okay.
So he's right. So I can get to the sides. Once I get to the
weaving,
sides,
it's going to cause problem with a harvest. You're trying to harvest a plant that's been weaved over those comes,
especially
you're
the
gonna
first
basically
layer.
cut everyone out. Yeah, it's rough.
Yeah, especially
You
the
just
first
want
layer.
that layer to actually sit on the plant and make it grow horizontally. It's what's happening is you're causing oxygen shift from the apical growth to the horizontal growth, and that causes everything to turn into a new main stem. Basically, that's why you get so much more production off of these plants. The hormone shift is what's causing it.
Yeah,
The more you bring them down, the more the plant thinks it needs to try to send more hormones to shoot up so it can receive more light. So it's just constantly pumping auxins out and shooting plants straight up, new shoot tips up.
And then with the second layer, so that first layer is that training one where we're doing that, a lot of that tucking down and up and through. This next layer is the layer that once we're flipped into flower, I add this. I add this once my flip happens, and then I add my second layer. I don't tuck into that first layer anymore at this point. At this layer, I'm going to let it grow into this.
Right.
And then this is where if I'm going to do any weaving, it may happen now, but it's not going to be like in and down. It may be like through just to try to maximize the spreads.
Try to keep it at that sea of green, everybody at the same level.
Yeah. And then
before anything goes above the screen, you want it to feel the screen out underneath it. As soon as everything hits the edges, you can stop and let them shoot up, let them bolt up. I do mine a foot apart in a tent. That's I'm using 4 to 5 feet of canopy. Each net's a foot from the pot that I use myself.
So you start at 1 foot, Tony, you're saying, and 1 foot above the pot?
1 foot above the pot, I'll put a net usually, or maybe 18 inches maximum. That makes me get everything to go out horizontally.
So this one,
less amount of time I spend growing shit on the bottom that I'm going to chop off is better for me.
Yeah.
So the reason why, so these are 5-gallon pots. I do have a bit of room here, and the only reason why I do have a bit of room here is for training purposes. I can't get behind these plants.
Yeah.
I can't move my net or get on the other side, so I have to allow for room for me to get behind it. Yeah. I actually sit right here and sit right here when I'm training. That's the only way I can get to them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and then this would be the final result.
Instead of 4x8s, I'm in a wheelchair and I can't reach back behind there or get under. So same reason.
Yeah.
Learning your system is where the differences are and the nuances. That looks beautiful, man.
Doesn't it? He's done such a great job. I love it. He's done such an awesome job. I know me and
pardon me?
We're both like this.
My buddy Cheddar Bob uses metal lobster netting, and they actually have the ability to weigh on the plant and cause them to go out instead of the nets that end up stretching. That's why if you took nylon string and put screws in the PVC every 2 inches, you can make a 2-inch square, or if you go every 4 inch, you can make a 4-inch square. And you just screw them in and weave them back and forth with a net and back with just a roll of nylon twine, and you can stop the stretch of the netting.
And the nicest thing about that too, and the reason why I might be wanting to switch to that, and I've been thinking about doing it, is because now you can untie it and pull it through without having to fight with your net.
Yep.
You can just pull your net out instead of having to unweave it. So that was that grow.
Okay.
Here is a little tighter to the ground. So again, starting nice and close to the ground, starting nice and keeping them low, tying them down. So you can maximize it. The tops of these plants would be like this right now. So once I get into the net, I can just really stretch them outwards.
You really pay attention to how you're tying down too. These are great pots for tying down. Like for me, if you've seen videos, I drill holes all the way around my sides.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we were drilling holes all around it. And what's really good about the air pruning pots, and what I like about that is actually once the roots hit there, they're actually not going down to the bottom like our old pots. So air pruning pots actually work a lot better for scrogging too. And that's just my hallucination. By using those different pots too, we should also look at pot sizes there and the type of pots that you're using. So it's great to see that too. Appreciate that.
And they're great for transplanting. All you do is untie them and pop them out,
Oh, they're awesome. I have them right there. I've got every pot under the sun. I did a video on that in 2014. That's why it made me smile, right? You guys should have me with those. She's got the little screws and little black. You got them, yeah. Pots and everything like that. Like everything that Mr. Toby talking about here, guys. Like, wow, this is great because we all got so much knowledge, and to see this happening, we're all like this, kids in a candy store too, right? Because we love this. This is awesome. I want to see more.
So, and then you just continue, and you put your net on. You continue to tuck them out to spread it out. At this point, I think I only kept it to 2 because I only had enough lighting for part of this 4x8, because this is when I actually moved to the 4x8 from the 4x4. Mm-hmm. So I only have 6x4 of this tent actually utilized, or 7, I should say.
Yeah.
Again, tucking it down, bringing them down, and then bringing them back up,
weaving them through.
As they grow, they just continue to grow. And then I believe this is when I flip the flower, because I have hit my edges. The edges here. You want to hit your edges as much as you can, because if you don't hit those edges, you're going to be chasing it as soon as you flip. You rather not be.
Have you mentioned your scrogging system, how you're making this, what parts you're using for this? This is also a big thing too. People, you can buy this scrogging different systems. I've done it with plywood, and I've made all kind. I'm not plywood, so sorry, 2x4s. I've used Rubbermaid bins. I've used so many different ways. So, and you've seen that in some of my videos, and I'm just using steel stakes and pulling that across with Mike and sticking them on there. A little bit different again too, right?
Mm-hmm. For the training layer, I just tie to the poles. I just use nylon. These are the 3.5-inch nylon screw necks. I don't go any higher. You want to try to keep your holes as small as you can, so you can maximize how much spreading. When you get to the bigger holes, it ends up being sloppier.
There you go. Yeah, what size squares are those?
These are 3.5s.
And then is that just poles that you put together and tie in the corner, or is that some kind
of?
No,
this is bought nylon. I haven't done this string yet because I just haven't done the screw downs, but that's going to be next up.
Nice. There's so many different ways of doing this too, right, guys? I know there was another YouTube channel, I can't think of his name right now, and he was actually promoting Jonathan out of Toronto, and he was they would come in a kit and they would just put these little scrogging systems together.
Yeah, that's basically what this is. I just buy I get it in a 5x30. I string it up. I measure it with a measuring tape. I make sure it's a little long. Cut it. Go as tight as you can. You want to be like able to strum it like a guitar almost. That's how tight you want it. You don't want to have it sloppy.
Details.
You want to have it tight.
You need to have it tight.
Yeah.
That's why I use the screws in PVC frame style, because you can pull that as tight as you want it.
Yeah.
Where you going?
And you can have those where you can set the whole thing in there if they're sized right. Like a 4x8, he can push that in from this door, go all the way to the back, and just set it down. And all you do is take a wire tie on each one of those green poles, and the section where it clicks, if you stick that out, it actually kind of acts like a shelf right there to set the PVC on. So just get the real large white wire ties that are like 30 inches long, and the end of them is like a 1/2-inch square. And you can set that all the way across there to put your whole frame on that's already strung out when you're ready to go. Like you're growing your plants, you're starting to train them. You just drop that first one on, and that being really tight actually helps as a way to hold the plant down without it just shooting straight through it.
And then this is kind of where that ended up.
Away from last year.
Super uniform growth.
Yeah.
Isn't it beautiful? Look at that. I know. I know. We're just like, yeah, look at that. It's just beautifully done.
You utilize styles like this when you have plant counts. Like back in the day, we could grow 99 plants. It didn't fucking matter what style you grew. Just start growing. That's the only way that growing is wrong, is not doing it.
Back in the day, what do you mean? It was illegal to just grow. There was no fucking plant number when we were growing. It made no fucking difference. Fill the room. How many can you put in there?
You put as many plants as you could under there. Then you start realizing your system and your timing, your harvest window. If I got enough space to put in 3 different rooms because of plant counts, and I'm allowed to do 99 plants, rotate them where you're pulling weed every 2 weeks. Right? You can always have herb. If you have a plant, like I have a 6 count here, having too many plants is a pain in the ass for you. You don't need to have all. That's where feminized seeds come in and learning how to fill a space like he's showing you right now. If you can learn the scrog system with a good cultivar that you like, you will have copious amount of cannabis where you're not searching for it anymore. You're picking which pieces you want to smoke instead of trying to scrape the bottom of your ashtray for roaches.
And that's kind of what Pembum is asking. What are some of the better plants for scrogging?
Well, that comes down to really your style. You can make any plant work in there, but not mix and matching. Like back in the day, Blue Dream used to knock out of the park. I could get pounds and pounds of weed off Blue Dream in there. It's a plant that's starting to come back now. Any of the man, green crack used to work well for folks in there. Lavender worked good. All the Kim and the diesels worked killer for it. You need a plant that
Very worked good for it.
Yeah, you need to have limbs that aren't brittle and break off easily. Like I said, like a bubba. If you start trying to push a bubba down too much, it's not gonna work for you. It'll choke itself out.
Increasing the silica in the plant, I use silica and I use the aminos along with the calcium to help my plant be stronger for doing the scrogging. I have cracked branches before. I cracked a branch on my outdoor plant actually because I just super cropped it too hard. And
I think it was about 2 weeks ago. I was playing with my plants to show you how flimsy they were, and we said add more silica. And I went over the one and the Kush one. The other one, my Kush snapped right off the top.
Like my haze, I can literally tie the stems into knots like a cherry stem.
The other one's like that Chem Medicross, like literally you can just weave that. It's just even like the Haley's Comet, another CBD strain. We would weave that because it was just like this. Another one, cheese. I hate it, but it just goes blah. Right? Those are other good strawberry strains. Yeah, you know those strains we're talking about. The ones that just
Cali Mist and Snapples, those all do the same thing. Fucking yeah.
Yeah, plant yoga.
Yeah, plant yoga. So a lot of
this is where learning your system comes in. If you know your plant does that, you're prepared for it with the nest long before someone growing published decides to start even thinking about putting one in. Like you've got it ready, it's on the side, you set it in the system, boom, ready to go. You might find out you need to have 3 sets of net in your space where you put a smaller screen on the bottom in screen size. And as you work your way up, you get bigger ones because it doesn't need to have as much of the net holding it down. It's just there to support the plant. It makes it easier to pull a giant cola out when it's not wrapped in a tiny 2-inch net or a 1.5-inch net.
Yeah. Yeah. Though, I believe I have some pictures to show using the bigger one at the top just to support.
Yeah, those nets are so killer for tying plants down, man. Those are great if you're a procrastinator too for making your net. This can help you keep your canopy down before you actually have your net in place with those, instead of having to try to drill more holes in the top of the lip. These allow you to take them as they grow out also and move it down to the next hole and keep the same amount of tension on the branch. Instead of it getting loose and starting to want to go vertically, all you got to do is go down one hole. Those things work killer.
Exactly, just like this. You see how as it grows up, I can just adjust it and keep them ever so tight to the ground. This is actually a plant I just harvested on Saturday. When we get to the end,
you can see where you topped it right there. That's nice.
Yeah, and I'll go back. And that's the only top I ever do. I only ever do one on any of my plants. And it's all, like you said, with redirecting the auxins to the apical dominants.
You want a lot of silica and a lot of calcium in there so that the stems the nacelles are extremely strong inside and turgid. They benefit quite a lot by not slipping on your calcium in these systems.
So there was a question earlier on, Matt, do you thin it at all? And I would say
yes, I do. At week between days 15 to 21 of flower, I'll do a big kind of swaz. I'll do a big strip out just because I'll have that density.
3 week flow.
At that point, and that's all depending on cultivar. If it goes for 56 days, I'll do maybe closer to the 14 to the 16. If it goes 10 weeks, because I like to grow 10-week strains.
Right.
Also, I'll do it closer to 17 to 21.
Think about this. Week 3 trim increases yields, guaranteed. And we'll talk about this. I did a video on it in like 2014. I think it's probably got like 1 million views on it. Week 3 trim increases yields.
Oh yeah.
It's exactly what it does. You want to thin that out, clean what you're doing, and get those yields up and get rid of all the energy going to certain parts of that plant and make sure it's concentrating on the colas. And that's what we all learned this through practices, like Mr. Toll and myself learned from others. Should have showed this because before we just grow plants, right? Because now there's all these different systems and how we're doing. There's scrogging, there's trimming. We got some amazing tricks that we do in day 4 of going into flower and how we trim, and we've totally increased our yields. I've caused light stress to create more bigs in my bottoms and bring the chlorophyll back by bringing back we should talk about that on another episode on light stressing to increase yield. I'm going to do a video on it 100% because I'm going to do it right now. I'm going to hit the plant at 3,000 ppfd for the next one. I get to have fun, and I'll bring back the chlorophyll. He's smiling, but all these things are next steps.
Here's another thing I actually just thought to let you know. When I'm training, if I can't get a branch to stay in the net and I want to force it to train, because I do take off all those vegging leaves, I will use the leaf itself to wrap around to hold it in place so it doesn't want to bounce back on me in the middle of the night in between checking on the plants. Kind of use it to kind of train it. I just flip it around and pull it through. Because if you just sometimes have them right on the edge and they're not really wanting to stay, they can pop through and then you have to come back and retrain it. So I kind of use that top leaf that I will be taking off to hold it in place, like more training. But yeah, so this is that plant. As you see, it was taking off from here to there. As you fill in the net, try to go more and more to side. Same thing, pulling it down, pulling it through, and letting it train out. At this point,
you can use that wire that John was talking about earlier, the bond wire. That's it's got like a foam covering on wire.
Yeah,
you can get it in like 3-inch pieces and just wrap it right, exactly like he did right there, around the leaf and the wire, and it'll keep your whole branch right down.
Yeah.
There's some people making 3D printed versions of the same thing that'll bend your plants out at 45 and slowly do it, and you can put them all over the plant and not have to have tie downs.
Yeah. Well, and all those tie downs that you saw when I originally trained for the scrog, when I do the transplant to the scrog, I'll take all those pot ones, and those are gone because now they're in the net. I don't need those anymore. They actually become in the way. So this would have been just going to flower. As it's flipping over, I'm just continuing to train out that second net. Make sure you fill in that second net. This is my training net. This is how you make sure you fill your tent up. This is how you make sure that you have every cola and every hole in the second one.
Okay.
Well,
Oh, just so you guys know, when I'm washing my floors, I have this little steamer my dad brought me. This is my Sundays are my Mondays too, and I have some. So I'm being present, and
your canopies look so damn good, brother. They're so even and nice.
he's just doing so beautiful in there. Let's acknowledge, Matt, what you're doing here, dude, and really showing people this because you can all do this. Everything you're doing here, just go to Matt's channel, like you said. You know what I mean? He does a beautiful way of looking at it. At the same time, the explanations behind it, and watch this episode over and over. There's so much knowledge going on here, Mr. Toad. Like you're talking about just all that stuff that I don't know. We all have different knowledges, but your expertise in this plant, my friend, dude, it's just, I mean, it's awesome, and I appreciate you so much. But when you don't show up here, we miss your knowledge.
With this, see how I trimmed out the leaves, right? This is what he's talking about. When you go back to here, you see all these leaves that are going on, they're all growing. This is still part of the stretch, more vegetative kind of leaves. They're all pulled out here. They bounce back within a week. None of these leaves were originally from this original picture.
Okay.
Most of these are bounced back from what's happening in the bud sites in that third week of flower. But yeah, and then that's that's the final of what that tent was when I harvested it.
No,
nice.
And now you don't have to worry about the crappy shit to trim. All the these nugs are easy to trim. That's no leaves on the plant right there. And the small little sugar leaves, I wouldn't even cut them off probably myself until I was about to smoke. I would try to keep those trichome heads as perfect as possible.
I wouldn't cut any of that off. I would let that hang, and then I would put that nice. I want to smoke it. I crack off those leaves and enjoy that freshness.
That's what I did. I chopped it, and every leaf that you see is on here is still on there. I hang it as is.
Check in the mail, dude. I haven't seen anything yet.
This one is Berry Cherry Godbud. So this one actually was a heavier indica too, but you could tell whether it was growing.
And John's still waiting for you to send him some, so he can, get the flavor for it, get the aroma.
Oh, okay, just showed up. Check that out.
I'll finish off with the outdoor.
What's up, Corey?
So what's your favorite strain that you like to grow in this methodology, Matt?
I grow something different every single time. I'm still in that thing of wanting to try all these different strains and try different flavors of what the plant can offer before I start honing in on what I really like to keep going, right?
Yeah.
My one-hitter quitter works killer in a scrog. It puts on almost twice as much weight as if you just grow it naturally, easily, just by putting it into layers.
My biggest yielder in a 4x4 was scrogged, and I got 1,103 grams in a 4x4.
Nice.
So couple pounds. 2.5.
So what else would you recommend, Matt, for people that are just thinking of getting into scrogging, looking at this? Where would you recommend they start? What's the list of materials they need?
You need to get your net, depending on how you do it. The way that Mr. Toe was explaining it is kind of the direction I want to go, being able to just attach it or unattach it and manipulate it, right? But any hydro store does sell. I would go for the 3.5 inch squares, not the 6 inch, unless it's for supporting the top buds. At that point, never train with a 6 inch because it's going to give you nightmares.
Mm-hmm.
You could attach your training layer to your tent or to a 2x. Actually, I have an image here of my outdoor scrog, which is not in a tent.
Oh, hold on. Let me bring it up here. Got to get my mouse to work again. There we go.
What is that, like 1x2 or 2x4? 1x2?
I got 2x2. I'm going all up around it.
Yes, that's the same idea with the PVC indoors. Outdoors, it's fine because the sun will bake the wood. It's going to keep it from staying dry, moist. It's far enough from the plant. But in a tent, you do that with PVC and screws. You put a screw everywhere you want. If you want a 3.5 inch net, every 3.5 inches, you put a screw into the PVC, and now you take nylon and just string it back. You can go back and forth, or you can go to each one. So that way you have the ability to remove a whole stringer if you wanted. If you just use a knot on one end, you can remove it, shift it over. Maybe it's too tight, pull it out, something happened. It's easy for harvesting also by being able to undo the net on one end and pull it loose, and you can pull the branches out without ripping your buds, because sometimes indoor your buds get so big it's hard to pull them up out of the netting and because your light's in the fucking way. So now you got to cut them into a smaller section than you wanted for hanging. I like having large sections to hang. They dry better for me.
You get that good dry time.
Yeah, I want them. I do about 4 to 6 foot pieces in my room. In my room, it's 5 feet high on most of the hangers. So everything, I try to keep it 4 feet, keeps it off the floor and gives me as much moisture in that section for a longer period of time so the dry doesn't happen quickly.
Well, and Peter Cactus has a good point here. The pot stays cooler with that outdoor scrog.
Oh, yeah. Way cooler.
Yeah.
Hold on, let's move one more picture into here.
Okay.
Yeah, because in my area, it gets so damn hot. If you can't get a canopy over your pot, it's going to dry out. You're watering like 3 times a day.
Yeah.
So just to give you guys the scale, these are 8 feet. This is 8 foot by 8 foot, this scrug. Okay. So that's why it only comes in 5 feet, and that's why it's tied in between.
To the middle. Yeah.
Yeah.
And with the one you make, you wouldn't have to worry about that right there. You could
exactly
using a roll, and it's tied off at every single one.
And so the same method works, where you grab your branch, and as it grows up, you're gonna want to bring it out and bring it down to spread it out as it goes.
Yeah,
Man, that's so awesome.
And then weed down. Just try to fill in as much as you can.
Well, you've only
That's a lot of work too,
you've
because
got
that center has to be pulled down as you're pulling them outers out because it wants to grow straight. Man, that's a lot of work in the 8x8 size outdoor. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then right here is when I started to notice it started to do more of the flowering stretch. So actually right about here. So I added in the picture. As you see here, I've added in a second layer now to control the buds and to support the bud structure. And the same thing, you want to be stretching you. And then at this point, I'm going to still be this bud. I want to reach for this. This bud, I want to reach for this. You want to keep on your stretch at this point to try to maximize each one of those holes. And then my final kind of thing before I took it out, that's where they were hanging outside the buds from a side angle.
Yeah.
And again, this is the support layer. This is nice to allow your bud to stay up and allow the light to hit all the sides instead of hanging down and only hitting one edge of it. You actually get the right amount of photons down and around.
Oh, nice. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, you're utilizing all of the light that plant could get instead of because the light's going to come from one way and try to go around it. If it's flat, it doesn't go around it. It just moves to a different angle, and that plant utilizes way more light. Way better spectrum too on the far side. So the plants that grow in the away from the sun, they always grow. For me, if they're not trained correctly, it's a whole different bud style that's on that side of the plant. If the plant's big enough, if it did not get enough light for that side, it's like moss growing on a tree. There's a different structure to the flower. This allows more of the plant to have the exact same structure. Again, easier for outdoor. It's great because of trimming. If you're not trimming small shit, you're getting done faster and you enjoy what you're doing much more. And this allows you to get a larger flower amongst the whole vegetative space of that plant instead of just of it.
And I was able to get up underneath and start like when the leaves start to go green and yellow, they still have some nutrients in them, but when they start to go necrotic and go brown, then I'm taking them off. So that can't be a harbor for pest and disease. I'm taking these leaves off and I have better access to it instead of trying to get into a giant bush.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then when you can remove more leaf matter this way too to keep better airflow because more of the leaves themselves have access to the sun. You literally don't need as many on that plant. So going into prune some of the larger leaves off, like you're saying, that are dying, and some of them that are starting to will let you get more light penetration, more air penetration. And again, that photosynthesis is going to increase when you pass more CO2 over the leaf and have transpiration from the oxygen exchange and from the amount of light that's now hitting the leaves that are available. Instead of being shaded on one half of a plant, you have the whole plant utilizing its leaf surface, the solar structures that it's using specifically to build the enzymes to break down everything in your soil.
Yeah.
The sugars.
Don't have too much fun trimming, Chad.
That's what I got for pictures of some of my stuff right now.
Well, that's fantastic, man. And we really appreciate you're showing us that as well. Now, you had a new video from Seed to Harvest come out on your YouTube channel, I think.
On Friday, that was that outdoor plant from start to finish of how I did it, how I got to that point, how I trained it.
And so you guys can check that out on Matt's Greenspace YouTube.
Thank you.
Well, we're always trying to promote, people that are intelligent, know what they're doing, and can explain it. And you're doing a fantastic job of explaining how to do this. And I want that knowledge to get out to more people, especially in Canada where we have that 4-plant limit, so you can grow that much more cannabis for your medicine.
Yes, and that's exactly why I'm so big into the scrog, is because I can only keep to the 4 plants.
What? That's it? We
What?
gotta get you. Those things are a dime a dozen.
What?
So we just gotta get you a license. Those things are a dime a dozen.
I just got mine back. I'm up to 146 plants now.
There you go.
Yeah.
Ken can't even count that high, so that's crazy.
Hey man, I don't have that many toes, okay? I gotta multiply my toes.
How many plants do you get?
146.
I've had 144 plant limits since 2008.
Nice.
Same plant, never changed.
Yeah.
30 grams a day.
Yeah, that's what I'm at now is 30 grams a day. And John's got people coming over, everybody, because he's doing meetings on. He's got this amazing thing coming up on 4/20, 2024 that only has happened, 4 times in the last several hundred years. We were talking about it this morning. It's a special word. I can't remember what it is. But his event on 4/20 in Vancouver.
The Pallid, I keep writing it down. I'm the one hosting it.
Yeah.
It's a Palindrome event. So Palindrome is Palindrome. Palindrome event. It's a palindromic numbers. So when the same number reads forwards and backwards, this happens. So if you can Google this, and it will tell you Y2K 2023, and it will tell you 4/20 2024 is a palindromic event. And this event only happens once in the history of anything. This is our Y2K, guys.
Yeah.
This is the next generation of cannabis for the future. It's pushing forward and seeing where we can go. And really, with legalization of 5 years in, this is that change for the world. We're making that change with that energy because we are the largest ecosystem in the world. They say it's the Catholic Church and the Hells Angels. But I beg to differ that because cannabis is in every religion. And cannabis is in every country. It's in every race. And we're using it in every age bracket because you're born with an endocannabinoid system. It's in mother's milk. And as we grow, they took it out of our diet. Wonder why we're endocannabinoid deficient. That's probably most of the diseases we have today is deficiencies of the endocannabinoid system, the body's own THC, and how it grows you forward and keeps you pacing forward. This
And
plant,
so many people react positively using cannabis because of that.
yeah, it's a food, it's a fuel, it's a fiber, and it's our medicine. It's changing this world, and we're part of that change. Everybody here grow this forward, and I appreciate everybody that shows up and the ones that talk and the ones that keep voicing. All of you, Tony, you're awesome. Matt, Ken, like all of you guys in the chat. I'm not gonna see all the names, but this is what we get to do. We get to see the future as we grow forward, and that's that moment when that shift happens. We got this energy, so create and build it. Make this that dime. Make it that time around the world. You guys know everybody. Make that a voice because that's the moment in time we get to celebrate, guys. That's our Y2K for the world. Let's kind of grow together and get that voice going because people by numbers change governments. Remember that.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody can help somebody, that means when you help somebody and that person helps somebody, we wind up helping everybody.
Yeah.
And that's what just happened on the show today. We all offered a little bit of knowledge to see this great growth from the knowledge, from the channels, from the pot sizes, like all what we do from the different wires that we use, from the fimming, from the strogging, from everything. And what's great is there's so many generations of this growth, and we're seeing the new patterns coming into play, like the new pattern that you're growing for yourself right now, which is that shift, which is your shift, because it's your choice to continue growing forward and seeing that future vision. You all saw that in your garden. You all saw that scrogging system. You pictured you doing it. Now make it happen. Yes.
Bingo. Yeah.
Bingo, guys. Write it down. Put that vision. Matt's smiling because this is what we do. We talked about this. I guarantee there's a vision board for his 2024 sitting right there.
That's just for today. That's my list for today.
Yes.
Well, I remember, guys, why I mentioned to ask Matt, especially on what you wanted to do to start, and it's write that down. Then write down all the materials you need before you even pop the seed. Have everything set up. Have it ready to go. That you're not stressing.
See it before it happens. See it before it happens. Don't get to call it the tyranny of how. Who is where you're gonna. And remember, Remember your work worlds, guys. I get to say this with these gentlemen every day. Who is your team?
Yeah.
Accept
And who's
that.
responsible?
Who's responsible?
Yeah.
Accept what's on you. Next, ask permission to lead, guys. Ask permission to grow forward with people to help you. Get the who's, right? Create a deeper, more collaborative partnership with your friends and the people around you, this cannabis community.
Yeah.
Right? And then you got a co-development. This is what we're doing. We're co-developing, and we got to praise and celebrate with a bong rip. It's 11 o'clock. I could keep going on here, guys. Right? But join the tribe, and what? Just celebrate. Enjoy what you love doing. Show up. Be present for yourself, and you'll continue growing every day and every way. We grow stronger and stronger, guys. It's called freedom, right?
You're damn right.
Yes.
And with that, John, we're going to cut the show, guys. This afternoon, we've got Stefan Burns on.
Thanks, Matt, for showing up, man.
Matt,
Thank you for the
please
knowledge.
come next week. I think we need Matt on here, and we can talk a little bit more about what he's going on, and you know, just well, I know you work too. Today's a holiday, so
That's why it worked out.
so you might not see him next week, but we'll always keep. Well, you know what? Appreciate you, brother. Love and peace, guys.
Okay, guys, going to end the show. Have a good one.